Chaos erupted on GB News as businessman Adam Brooks and veteran broadcaster Nina Mishkov clashed in a fiery on-air showdown over the shocking High Court ruling on the Bell Hotel in Epping. Accusations of lies, hypocrisy, and betrayal flew across the panel, leaving the host scrambling to contain the storm. But when the debate spiraled out of control, the studio was left reeling, and viewers stunned. What happened next turned into one of the most blistering rows ever seen live on air. Watch the clip. Before starting, subscribe to the channel, hit like, and share your thoughts in the comments.
Did you know over 95% of our viewers aren't subscribed? Subscribing is free and helps us create more great content. Hit subscribe now and join our community.
On the Migrant hotel situation, and you know, there were hundreds of people that said we will be here twice a week if it doesn't close. They had no option but to do this. If they didn't do this, they would have had to do something else. The Home Office would have had to buckle. Because at the end of the day, let me remind viewers, I've spoke to parents whose daughters have been harassed for their Snapchats by migrants, have been harassed and had dirty language towards them in the high road. Women that have been flashed in the forest, joggers that have been violently spoke to. This was a problem, a massive problem, and the locals have had enough. You can label us far right all you want. We're just worried parents. I live 2 miles from there. I've got a family member who goes to St John's School. Right? We were not dropping this. This does not deserve to be happening in any town in the UK. This is a disaster for this country, and something needs to stop.
Well, there we go. Obviously, some of those things are allegations, but yeah, I must admit that I was being told very similar stuff yesterday when I was there as well. Mark, what does the government do now then?
Yeah.
So these list of options potentially for them to do.
Yeah, I think you pretty much nailed it on the list of 4 options, and ultimately we've got to get to your option 4 of deportations. Here's the problem, though, which I've said many times on this programme before. If you do not scrap the Human Rights Act and leave the European Convention on Human Rights, you are going to be held up in court by human rights lawyers endlessly before you get any plane off the runway. We know that. The Conservatives tried Rwanda, whether you think it was a great scheme or not, or a terrible scheme, but the courts blocked it. So you've got to get rid of that legal logjam. There's no way Labour are going to repeal the Human Rights Act or leave the ECHR, is there? There is potentially a 5th option. I was just looking this up, Patrick. You said move them into houses of multiple occupancy. I mean, I wonder whether we can quickly construct centres, holding pens, before we...
Like Nightingale Hospital.
Well, I was just looking up, the London Nightingale Hospital was constructed in 7 days.
Yeah.
Right, if you put your mind to it... Now, I haven't got in mind exactly geographically where I place them, but obviously not in population centres like Epping, right? I would have thought, if you put your mind to it, and if we could construct... We had the will to construct these Nightingale hospitals in a week, which obviously required quite complex medical equipment. These holding centres wouldn't require any of that. Maybe that's the short-term way of dealing with it, because... Each of your 1 to 3 options, Patrick, are a total catastrophe for the government.
Yeah, I mean, the government's in a right mess over this now, aren't they, Nina? And, you know, like I said, I think if you put them in houses of multiple occupancy, you're not going to be able to have security guards outside every single one of those houses. There's going to be huge issues with people in the local community. It was one of the big issues that reared its head in Ballymena, for example, and we saw how that kicked off, and we don't want that to take place over here. So what do they do? Because I think they're going to have to leave the ECHR and start deporting people, aren't they?
Well, they're not going to leave the ECHR, and it's not just that. It's the refugee status. We are legally required to look after people who arrive on our shores. We are legally required to do that. And the problem is, with social media, this has been so whipped up. It's been so that migrants, any kind of migrant, is demonised. And when you look at...
Look at the stats, Nina. Look at the sexual stats and sexual crimes.
Can I just point something out to you, Adam? The people who were arrested last year, I'm not equating them to the people who have been protesting outside any of the hotels, especially not in the Bell Hotel in Epping. I can see the women who are...
I know what you're going to say. We know their backgrounds. They're English. And anyone that decides to abuse women or children, I will call out and have nowhere near me. We do not know the history of these people.
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm not
I knew what you was going to say.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
Well, go on, let's go.
I was going to say the people last year after the riots, OK? The men who were arrested for the riots, 41% of them had either been charged or reported for domestic violence.
So you've just said exactly what I was going to say.
I was going to say, no.
Right.
So
Well, but that's the riots last year.
And we know we are not funding them.
Different kettle
I'm
of
going
fish.
to say, so you're saying they want to protect the women and children. They're not
They're
protecting
rioters. They're not peaceful protesters.
Well, you don't know that.
I would pick you up a little bit on this point that we're tarring everybody with the same brush.
I'm not tarring with the same
I don't think we are. The problem, I think,
I said deliberately, I'm not equating that.
No, I meant about the migrant community.
Right.
I don't think people, and actually some of your Vox pops, Patrick, rather reinforce my point. I don't think people have a problem with migrants coming here to work.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen any people complaining about, I don't know, a hedge fund manager moving to the City of London. You don't get many protests about that. You don't get many protests when a top football team signs a foreign star. And you don't get much protests, I think, if people are coming here to work in public services. The particular segment of the people coming in are those who are coming in entirely reliant on the state and are claiming asylum status, and
but
we
then
are
we don't know
dubious
that they
about
could
that.
be working. The problem has always been, and still is,
the
they're not
cohort
We have a very, very good
processing them.
idea that people, like the chap that we've just seen there is from Somalia, is not a secret hedge fund manager. Right? We know that.
But he could be something that's equally useful.
He can just about, no disrespect, he can just about speak English. These people that are coming over on the dinghies are never going to generate anything for our treasury.
I mean, obviously he's not. But when he says give us a second chance, because his point was that we're not all the same. We had issues.
No, Patrick, I don't. I've always said the same. I don't want these people here. We have enough scumbags and thieves, rapists, paedophiles of our own to deal with. We know their history. We can deal with them. We have no.
They're all paedophiles and rapists.
They're not all.
No, but we are seeing multiple cases, court cases and arrests from asylum seekers. I have two daughters, and I want to know who these people are coming into our communities.
Understand that, but you cannot tar everybody with the same brush.
But clearly, as a cohort, there's a problem, right? These people at the Bell Hotel in Epping have not made Epping a better, safer place.
No, they've made it a worse place.
We don't know that
just
yet.
Practically speaking now, look, we have got an idea. Just practically speaking now then, so you've got, I think it's the latest I saw reported was 19 local authorities are taking this legal action. Robert Jenrick has just decided to set up, I think along with Stephen Barrett, the barrister, this Lawyers for Borders thing as well, to try and get this challenge.
Yes, but what hypocrisy from Robert Jenrick. He was in charge of the hotels, wasn't he?
He wants to close down the Bell Hotel,
he did close down the Bell Hotel.
Yes, but before he was in charge of the hotels.
This government now is going to have to act very, very quickly, because according to Mark White, we're due a good week in the Channel next week, weather-wise as well, which could see close to 1,000 a day. If you can't put them in these hotels, and those hotels have to close within 2 weeks, if you're not going to press the deportation button, and you're not going to be able to find enough houses out there, I mean, it would be an unbelievable sin to start finding HMOs for all of these people.
And dangerous.
They're going to have to start with tent cities or something.
Well, do you think that they might go for my Nightingale idea?
Right, hold on.
The problem is you're going to need an endless, increasing number of them, unless you've got a plan.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Next UK, your go-to for real stories and sharp analysis.